Yeah, no, exactly. It was a second string Leinster team, but they had a bunch of superstars out, and John Muldoon kicked a nice conversion. A nice moment for him.
Yeah, it was a nice moment.
No,
I tried a drop goal when I played for my junior club in Clanwilliam in Tipperary once. It went along the ground in a cup match, but no, I never had a conversion in a match. I would have loved to have. I'd love to be in that position to take one, but
the technique from Muldoon as well.
Full didn't look great. It was a great send-off.
As a betting man now, what price would you be to get a reasonably difficult conversion? But when you were of great mind and body.
Be a big price, I'd say.
Would it be?
I know. I was practicing all the time in training. That's all we did at the start of training was have shots at goal. But if I was one of the Leinster players under the post now, the steam would have been coming out my ears, to be honest.
Varmer nearly made it.
Losing 47-10, and then it's not as bad as maybe as if it was a closer game.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, and I think people understand.
I think so, yes.
It's in this, with the narrative of the story, but a great send-off. And you have to ask the question, lads, where was that kind of a performance all season? You know, no consistency, and I'm glad for John Muldoon, but I think there's a lot of issues there that need to be fixed, and Kieran Keane's first season hasn't been a good one. They'll admit that themselves. They've been far too inconsistent, but really pleased for him, and I think everybody is in the game that he got a good send-off and got the goodbye that he deserves.
Just to finish it, to round off that good send-off, we were looking for some photographs of Alan and Muldoon playing against each other. Did we find any playing against each other? No, this is as close as we can get.
Just at the races.
What the hell's going on here? So that's the three retirees from the weekend.
That's at the Galway races, yeah.
That's a good photo to find, a very topical one.
There you go. So Nina Carberry retired, Katie Walsh retired, John Muldoon retired, holding the whip there, John Muldoon. Nice suit, Quinny. It's a bit baggy around there.
It's a bit baggy, that's good. A few years ago now, to be honest, they're all tight fit now. Look, they're all baggy. Look at the trousers and the jeans and Michael Swift. Yeah, a few years ago.
Oh, he obviously didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
We have loads more of those photo calls to come in the future, by the way.
Keep those photos at bay now.
On eBay. Right, so we should talk about some of the other stuff at the weekend. Bryn Cunningham came out after the Ulster game. Maybe we should talk about the game before we talk about that. What the hell happened in Ulster? They look odds on at half time to get the fourth try.
Yeah, Munster started the game well, and I was thinking of this before the game. What's the story here? The story is Ulster only. It's
they need a bonus point win to guarantee
a chance and hope that Edinburgh don't get anything against Glasgow. That was going to be on later on Saturday evening. They had to fulfil their part of the deal first and foremost, and they obviously can't control what's going to happen later on in the evening. So you think very strong Ulster side, second string Munster team, the vast majority.
Nice of Munster to do that for Ulster.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's amazing because it's probably harder playing against those guys because they're playing for contracts, they're playing for a chance to try and make the team, their futures, all that kind of stuff. And I've been in those situations before where you're kind of perceived as a second group and you're kind of told, well, you're not a starter now, but let's show you what you can do. And in fairness, they showed a lot of energy and aggression and desire to play, and there was a lot of positives in that game at the end for Munster. Calvin Nash, Stephen Fitzgerald, Sweetenham, the three of them were outstanding. The forwards played really well, and they caused a lot of problems for Sam Arnold. Again, he's the only starter from the week before he played. He was brilliant, and he just keeps getting better. I think he's going to be a really, really good player.
Yeah.
He's still so young. A lot of stuff happened so quickly for him this year. But Ulster, Ian Henderson going off was unsettled him a bit. That's a concern. I think we haven't heard what the story is. He clashed knees with Robin Copeland, immediately was in pain, immediately went off, which didn't look good. But Ulster, 3 tries before half time, and they were dominant. They got 2 from the maul, and you think, right, the script is on here to get the 4th try. They're in a great position, but they started playing around their own 22 right from the kickoff. And in the space of 2 or 3 minutes, they had Luke Marshall in the bin and Munster scored a try. And that's what did the damage. And then they just panicked and they showed why they are where they are this year.
Yeah.
They couldn't win a line-out.
There's one reason why they couldn't win a line-out. Gerbrandt Grobler stole 5.
Yeah, your friend, Grobler.
played amazingly.
He was very good, yeah, he was very good, to be fair. outstanding. And himself and Klein, when they were together in the second half, two big men who played like it was their last. Grobler played like it was his last ever game of professional rugby because he was outstanding, and that was his best performance over the 80 minutes. So Ulster's lineup was a shambles, and they made so many mistakes and errors, and they just created absolutely nothing in the second half of that game, and it just sums up their season, you know.
Yeah.
It just sums up the season.
We were getting loads of tweets about Grobler and the fact that it was announced that he was leaving, but that was always the plan. He was only ever going to be...
No, he was... I tell you what was going to happen was he'd signed... When he signed last year from Racing, he signed a 3-year deal with Gloucester to commence at the start of the 2018-19 season, and for 1 year he was going to Munster. I think because there was an option to change that during the year, that then the talk was that he was going to sign for Munster, and that there was a buyout clause. Munster were going to do that, but obviously with all the stuff that happened in January, and I'd say the IRFU did a U-turn and said, look, in hindsight, this is not the best idea, and they pulled back and allowed Munster to sign him, because it was more or less agreed that he was going to stay with Munster, even though Tadhg Beirne was still coming. It would have given them a lot of depth in the second row that I think they need. They still need another second row, I think. But, you know, so it seemed like it was a surprise on Saturday. That story was kind of around for the last 2 months, that once it hit the headlines in January about his 2-year ban for taking drugs, and morally, was it right or wrong, should he be here? I think that's when the RFU said, look, it's not happening, he's got to go. So he has the 3-year deal for Gloucester, and I think he's going to go and fulfil that now. Yeah.
He's obviously very good at rugby.
He's a very good player. Yeah, he's super, and he showed that, and I think that's why. And I had heard this a lot from some Munster players, how good he was in training, how skillful he was, how athletic he was, and then he got injured obviously at the start. So he certainly would have helped him a good bit this year. But look, the rest is history. Everything that happened, and
he can get his revenge on Ireland in the World Cup when we're slated to play in the quarters or semis. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would. But he's off, and look, I think he'll be important for the rest of the season. And some people are saying, well, should he have started against Racing, and maybe he'll start in the next couple of weeks in the run-in for them.
Ulster are 4th in Conference B on 62 points. Ospreys are 5th in Conference A on 44 points. That's why Ulster are going to play Ospreys at home in the Champions Cup qualifier.
It comes down to points in the table for who has the home quarterfinal or that home playoff. So Ulster, as you say, 62, Ospreys 44, and that means just straight, you have more points scored. They're home in the Kingspan in 3 weeks, and that is such a massive game, not just financially, but from the whole perspective of maybe just healing all these cracks and fragments throughout Ulster rugby that's on and off the field. If they're not in Europe next year, I think the whole thing explodes. And what coach? Okay, they say the coach has agreed. He's with another club, it can't be announced for 2 or 3 weeks. I wouldn't have come out and said that. I would have just waited and said, look, we're looking, and we'll have someone in a couple of weeks. But if they're not in Europe, it's a massive blow to them.
The only thing about saying that you have a coach means that you can start telling
privately, maybe you can tell.
You can tell Ross Byrne, you can tell Joey Carberry, you can tell people, so
yeah.
This
isn't. You can still tell them without saying it publicly as well, that we have a coach. You can still say, look, this is who's coming.
It means that the argument that you're sending them to a team that doesn't even have a coach, though, that's like...
Probably, yeah.
less shambolic if they do have a coach.
Yeah, makes a valid point, for sure.
Because that came up again, that was the point I was making at the start of this chat, was Bryn Cunningham was out saying the IRFU are talking to Ross Byrne and Joey Carberry, and if you've got a scenario where 2 of the best 3 out halves in the country, 3 of the best 4 out halves in the country are all playing for the same province, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And I think it was reported last week that it was Joe Schmidt and Davis Nusafora who accelerated this conversation with Leinster. It wasn't. It was Ulster saying, look, we need to find a fly half somewhere. Is he going to be Irish qualified, or are we going abroad? And that's a very simple question.
Yeah.
Are you going to allow us to go abroad if we can't get someone within? So we need an answer on that pretty soon.
So it's fair enough that they would ask.
Which is understandable. So I think that's why that conversation, because there was talks of the timing of it, the week that was in it when Leinster were you know, playing that semi-final that week and stuff. Why did it happen? I think it needs to happen. They need to know one way or the other. Do they go outside Ireland, or do they get someone from within? There's a couple down the road in Dublin here that would be brilliant for them if they were allowed to go after them.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to the player. We had this conversation.
It doesn't seem like it was handled very well. That the week before the Saracens game, you'd walk in and
I'm not sure how it got out. The conversation, it's part and parcel of your working week for the coaches. Okay, you could say, look, the timing isn't great here. Come back to us next week. But how it got out and was leaked out to the press, that conversation, I don't know. There's always a reason. Maybe somebody from Ulster said it to kind of get this conversation going and create that bit of uncertainty. But they need a fly half. There's no doubt about it.
Strong speculation this morning that Dan McFarland might be the man. Des Berry has written a story. Always very well sourced. Des. Strong speculation Dan McFarland might be the successor to John O'Gibbs at Ulster. Currently employed as Gregor Townsend's assistant coach for Scotland. Spent 15 years at Connacht, 6 as a prop, 9 as an assistant coach.
Highly thought of as well.
Yeah, so he went straight from playing to coaching, and it took Townsend to convince him to move to Glasgow was in his best interest, and then obviously he's gone with them as well. So
yeah, he's not obviously your marquee. And this is where they've had the problem before, where they've kind of gone for trying to find names rather than, you know, you can unearth some brilliant coaches, brilliant rugby coaches who are not necessarily the finished article, and you need a little bit of luck with that as well, and you need to do your due diligence, and the big thing is how they handle players and what kind of enthusiasm they bring and how can they manage the group. And that's exactly what Ulster need, is someone to come in now and create a real good team spirit, if you like.
yeah.
Similar to what Rassie Erasmus did with Munster. Munster got that one really right, and it was proven that he was brilliant. When he came in at the start, he was he had a reputation for team morale being a really important part of his philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, when he was with the Cheetahs, Vian Herbst, I can't think of his second name. We played for South Africa or played for Munster with us. He would have played with him under the Cheetahs, and he taught me about him having barbecues with the families, bringing the wives, the partners, the kids. Yeah, having those kind of.
That was his character. He was like, I only met him once, but he was unbelievably effusive, and
that was a really important part. Where some other coaches, okay, they've so much going on, they're managing so much stuff, they don't have time for the nitty gritty, getting to know the player type scenario, because there's so much pressure there. But he was big at that, and that's what Ulster need now, someone to come in and really gel the group together, because to be fair, there is a lot of decent players there, a lot of good players.
Does McFarland fit the bill?
He's not your big name. He's not your big, doesn't have that stature in the game worldwide, but from what I hear, and I've heard this from Scottish guys, that he's a really, really good coach, good motivator, and highly thought of. So someone like that might work straight away.
Yeah, okay. So that's the story with Ulster, and they possibly have a coach. If there is going to be an out half who goes, is it more likely that it's Ross Byrne or Joey Carbery? I mean, Leinster see Carbery as a 15.
Yeah.
And they definitely would have a concern about what happens if Rob Kearney gets injured, or if Johnny Sexton gets injured. He's their number one replacement for both of those situations. Yeah. It's not like he's not going to get game time.
Yeah. I'm not sure, Ger. It's they'd probably try to hold Carbery more than maybe Ross Byrne, but I think then Carbery and Sexton are going to be gone for the next 12, 14 months, and it's going to be a very busy period. So who do they play then when he's away?
Yeah.
If Ross Byrne goes,
and if Leinster's B team is getting hammered,
and ultimately, if the players are contracted beyond this season, which I believe they are, they don't have to go anywhere. They actually don't have to go anywhere. It's when their contracts are coming up, whether Leinster or the RFU are in a position to offer them contracts, and then when it's on the table, say, well, we can give you a contract, but
it's for here.
You know, so they can't really influence it then. So we'll wait and see. I think in an ideal world, you'd love to. It'd probably be. It makes sense that they're all playing games, and it's not just playing a couple of games. It's playing 20, 25 games as the starting 10, week on week. And that's what Ulster want. They want someone to come straight into the team who's going to play their starting 10. And it's very hard to put value and the magnitude of that, experience for the step up to national level. And I've often said it before, you go back to Argentina in 2015 World Cup, there's 5-6 guys out of the team, and the guys that come in, they haven't, it's like, doing your helicopter license, isn't it? It's miles in the air.
Yeah.
And that's what they want.
Definitely helps.
From a national coach's perspective, he wants guys being exposed to these high pressurised games.
All right. Quinny, good stuff. Thanks very much for that. Breaking news out of Liverpool this morning that Željko Buvac won't work with Liverpool between now and the end of the season for personal reasons. If you don't know Buvac, he's the number 2 to Jurgen Klopp and has been with Klopp for 17 years, but is leaving effective immediately, ending a 17-year relationship with Klopp in the week of the Champions League semi-final against Roma. Frequently described as the brain behind the pair's gegenpressing tactical approach, he's understood to have left following a dispute with Klopp. This isn't good, is it?
Not at all. Timing is terrible, like just when they've all the momentum. And you'd wonder, Clough and
Before
Taylor.
I go, I have to tell you, it's Vian Dupree, not Vian Herbst.
Yeah,
Vian Dupree. Remember, he played for Munster. He played under Rassi and the Cheetahs. Anyway, I had to say, he killed me for not saying it. I just went blank.
You're happy now for the rest of the day?
Well, I wouldn't say happy, Johnny, but I'm a bit more content.